Hello everyone. Today's question is, was Islam spread by the sword? The emphatic answer to this is that it wasn't. It was actually through propagation and trade dealings, but let's examine it more closely. During the Prophet's lifetime, Islam spread by propagation, and the reason for this is that people were attracted to Islam very much because of the mercy and kindness of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even prior to his prophethood, he had been known amongst people as Amin, the trustworthy one. A verse in the Quran attests to these attributes of the Prophet. It is by God's mercy that you are gentle to them, and had you been harsh and hard-hearted, they would have surely scattered from around you. Islam grew from having a handful of followers when his prophethood started in 610 CE to 100,000 Muslims assembling in the desert on his return journey from his last pilgrimage in 632 CE. After the death of the Prophet in 632 CE, the Muslims started to conquer other lands beyond Arabia, and especially so under the rule of the second caliph Umar bin Khattab. They conquered Iraq, Syria, Palestine, and Egypt, and within 50 years, Islam had spread to Egypt and Morocco and Yemen, Caucasia, and into Central Asia. This maybe begs the question as to how this was possible if people were not being forcibly converted by the sword. Well, coercing people to become Muslim isn't allowed in the Quran. There is no compulsion in religion. It has also been observed by historians that contrary to some misperceptions, even during the times of the conquest of different lands by the Muslims, force was not used to make the subjects in those countries become Muslim. Ira M. Lapidus writes in his book, A History of Islamic Societies, that the Arab Muslims did not, contrary to reputation, attempt to convert people to Islam. Let's look at some specific examples of what happened when Muslims were conquering or taking over other territories. Take Greece, for example. For almost 500 years, the Greeks, or part of Greece, were under Muslim rule, being part of the Ottoman Empire until Greece gained independence in 1829 CE. Through all the time, it remained Christian, and under Ottoman rule, the Greek were free to observe their faith, maintain their language, tradition, and culture. Davison has even commented in his work Reform of the Ottoman Empire that there was immigration from independent Greece into the Ottoman Empire, since some Greeks found the Ottoman government a more indulgent master. You have also probably heard of Al-Andalus, or Muslim Spain, when the Muslims were ruling over Spain for 800 years, from 711 CE until 1492 CE. What is astonishing is that southern Spain was taken by the Arab Muslims in just a few months. According to historians, it also ushered in a golden age of freedom and tolerance for Jews who had been persecuted until then. Apparently, forced conversion to Islam was not the practice then either, and on the contrary, many Christians and Jews came to hold government posts. The famous Jewish philosopher Maimonides himself said that Judaism probably welcomed the conquest of Spain by the Muslims. So that was just a couple of examples of how Muslims ruled in their conquered territories and how no sword was used to spread Islam as a faith. Let's take a look at the other way in which Islam spread, namely trade. An interesting example is the arrival of Islam in China in around 650 CE, when a group of early Muslims visited China. This was after the death of the Prophet and during the rule of the third caliph. The emperor of that time was favorably inclined to Islam and had China's first mosque built. For more than 300 years thereafter, Muslims were actually dominating the export business, and during the Ming Dynasty in particular, from 1368 CE until 1644 AD, Islam flourished in China. Another country in which trade was well established and which Islam reached via trade is Indonesia. Indonesia has now become the most populous Muslim country in the world, and it is said that Islam arrived there no later than 1400 CE via the trade routes. Within a few hundred years, the whole region, including Malaysia, southern Thailand, and the southern Philippines, were peacefully converted. So you can see that the idea that Islam was spread by the sword is far from the truth. And this idea originally came from the fact that Muslims were also conquering new territories. In fact, we now know that people in those conquered territories were able to continue their own practices and traditions.